Are you trying to establish your brand as a thought leader? Start a podcast, invite industry experts to be guests on your show, and watch your brand become the prime resource for decision makers in your industry. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm Jonathan Green.
And I'm James Carberry.
Let's get into the show. Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. Today we are joined by Susie Pecuch. Susie is a consultant. She is a keynote speaker. She also runs a company called Design the Customer Conversation. Susie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jonathan. Great to be here.
It's great having you on the show. Susie, it's actually a privilege for me. Susie's one of the few guests of the show that I've had the privilege of meeting in person. We grabbed lunch the other month, which was fantastic. So for me, this is an extra pleasure to have you on the show, someone that I already know personally. So again, thank you for taking a little time out of your schedule to join us here. And just to give our audience a little bit of context about, who you are, what you're up to, why we're bringing you on the show, tell us a little about Design the Customer Conversation. Tell us a little about kind of your journey to this company.
Sure. Well, what I do is I help clients get the customers do the marketing for them. So everybody wants more customers, more sales. Why don't you have a whole team of customers out there who are bringing you more customers? It's smart, it makes the business easier, and it really keeps the business sustaining and growing. So where I started with my approach to this is after I graduated from the University of Pittsburgh with a degree in marketing and communication, I ended up wandering into an interview in California State College in California, Pennsylvania, where they were selecting interns for the Magic Kingdom College program, people to come work in the park for 4 months and out in the front line and to learn about Disney through some programs once a week about how they run Disney and how they make it work. So I always loved Disney, so I wandered into this interview session, and one thing led to another. And even though I was no longer a college student and I didn't go to that school anyway, I talked my way onto this interview and paid Pitt for some postgraduate credits. And I set off with my marketing degree in my pocket to go work for Disney World at the ticket gate. And I will tell you to this day that job influenced me more professionally than anything I've ever done because we were there for 4 months, seasonal temporary workers at the ticket gate in our little polyester blue costumes, and we had to go through 40 hours of training and take a 20-page test at the end of the week to be a Magic Kingdom ticket taker. So
wow.
You better believe I studied for that because I thought I would just be mortified if I failed the Magic Kingdom ticket taking test.
Yeah.
But what I learned was that Disney really took it very seriously that every interaction and every moment with every guest coming through that gate every minute of the day was their marketing, because their main goal was when you left that park, not only did you have a good time, you were blown away, you were saying, wow, you were already booking your next trip to come back, and you were going home and making sure all your neighbors, friends, relatives, everybody was coming too. And I realized right then and there that the strongest marketing is that passionate customer who walks out and says, you have to go there, or you have to try this, or they're the best at this. And they took it very seriously that my role, just one of tens of thousands of employees, which they called cast members, each interaction that I had could make it or break it. And they took it very seriously that I represented that company at all times. And they knew if I really loved my job and had pride there, and I knew how to do my job, that I would be doing marketing for them.
Yeah. Because
now, instead of someone saying, boy, these people made me mad, or they don't know what they're talking about, or I missed the parade, I didn't know what time it started, we would give tips. We had to learn that the most frustrating question was, what time is the 3:00 parade? And you had to answer that question without rolling your eyes, and then you had to be excited and give them a tip, and you had to stop and watch the parade yourself sometime and get re-excited. So that set my whole career off in a direction of really thinking that every company did that. while I was at Disney, I helped to create the Disney Institute. I was on the founding team where we taught programs like the Disney approach to quality service and the Disney approach to people management to other companies, because they all wanted to know, how is Disney doing this year after year? What is your secret? What's the pixie dust?
Yeah.
So to have that seat at the table, to be able to see the whole process of how we created a culture and how we lived the brand. Marketing wasn't just a slogan or a brochure. Marketing was alive, and we lived the Disney brand. So I then set off and worked for other companies, and what I soon realized is that not a lot of them really knew that or took that seriously. Many of them didn't have a brand or know who they were, and some that did just used it in the advertising, but it had nothing to do with the day-to-day operation. So as I learned from some other companies and I gave to some other companies, I ended up creating my own approach to a real simple way to get your customer to do the marketing for you. I ended up working for some great companies who were also extraordinary brands like Singapore Airlines and Nike, and just the chance to learn from them and bring my approach to them helped me perfect a simple way to really get people to understand this and make it work. And it works for small businesses, big businesses, entrepreneurs, B2B, people who work directly with the customer. And the new area that I'm really focusing on a lot too is virtual customer service. Because I think people think, if you're walking into a restaurant or into a shop or into Disney World, yes, it matters. But I just deal with other businesses, or, most of my work is on the internet or email or phone. Well, guess what? It's 10 times as heightened when you're not there to take in all the other stimulus around you, when it's just you and your phone or you and your computer. And I will tell you also that if you do work B2B and you work with a lot of vendors, the strongest recommendation, the way that people make decisions, 91% of business-to-business buyers are influenced by word of mouth of what other people tell them. So this is not only applying to all different types of businesses, but it's very serious, it's measurable, and if you're not taking it seriously, you're missing a big, important part of business success.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned obviously Disney was a hugely influential part of what you're talking about here. I mean, they are kind of the gold standard in terms of that customer interaction. After someone goes to Disneyland or Disney World, they are raving about the experience there. So certainly I can see how that would have sort of set this current trajectory for you. But let's kind of get into the meat and potatoes of today's topic. I think I already know what the answer is going to be, but Susie, what is the most powerful form of marketing? What are we talking about here today?
Well, there was actually an amazing study done by Frederick Reichold. It's in the Harvard Business Review. And he was looking at customer surveys, and he used enterprise car rental for his first round of research. And his theory was, if good customer service is important to the business and makes you successful, then the locations of the enterprise locations that had the highest scores should be the most successful, making the most money. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, he didn't find that. He found that the ones who had the highest ratings were struggling financially, and he thought this doesn't make any sense. So when he looked at it closer, he found that there was one question that correlated with the locations that were financially successful and growing and making money, and that was the only question that correlated directly was, will you recommend me? And if the customers were giving it an 8, 9, or 10 out of 10, he could then pretty much predict that that business was on the up curve. They were growing and they were successful. And he took that same research and he went to about 8 different industries, and he found the same thing to be true. So, yes, it was important if they said, oh, you're nice, it's clean, we're happy. But overall, the impact that had to have was, I believe in you so much, I trust you so much, I love you, I have so much passion about what you do that I'm willing to put my reputation on the line and go tell somebody else. So that's why even though a 7 was good, they weren't willing to run out and tell someone else. When you go somewhere and you come back home and you tell your friends, guess where we went last night? This was amazing. That kind of a passion, there have to be a number of ingredients that hit it right. So you'll give it a 9 or a 10, 8, 9, or 10.
Yeah, it's interesting because you can think of obviously certain experiences, entertainment, restaurants, these typical types of things that you go to your friends and you rave about, they knocked your socks off. But it's not just for those types of businesses or industries. This is something that people in the B2B space can definitely take advantage of. Am I right?
Absolutely. And I think most of them are missing this as a key ingredient to success. I really do. I've been working a lot more with internal customer service, B2B, and also virtual customer service. And I think it's more important there than even in the obvious places. So the companies who do this in the B2B, I think they excel. They will stand out.
So, Susie, if anyone in the audience, they have the desire then to get this recommendation, but what can they actually do? What are some things that they can actually do to get this recommendation?
Yes, there's 3 things that you can do to get a recommendation. And one is, first of all, stand in your own shoes and figure out who you are. And by that, I mean what you do might be that you own a restaurant, or you own a construction company, or you own a theme park, and that's what you do. But who are you? What's behind that? Kind of what's the essence or the personality of who you are? And Seth Godin, I like his work. He actually said, try to find the one word that you own and the one word that summarizes kind of the essence of who you are. And a good example of that would be like Disney is a theme park, but what they really do is they create magic. And they try to make everything magical, whether you're standing in line for a ride, checking into a hotel, or whether you're on, Pirates of the Caribbean. So that is their word. And if you know who you are and what your word is or your essence is, then you start to differentiate yourself and create a feeling. And people don't buy for logical reasons. According to Zig Ziglar, they buy for emotional reasons. In fact, there's another quote that I love. I'm forgetting who has said it right now, but he said, people only buy one of 2 things, either the solution to a problem or a feeling. And I say if you can give them both, then that's where you go into world-class and super success. So, Ritz-Carlton knows that. They're selling luxury. And Nike is selling this competitive, we used to just say we don't sell sports shoes and sports equipment. We are sports. We live it. It's in our blood. Great people like Singapore Airlines, they are known in the air for gracious hospitality. So, yeah, they're selling you a ticket on an airplane, but they're really delivering gracious hospitality. So what is the word that you own? And if you know that, you know who you are, then you know what to do, and you start to differentiate yourself from the crowd.
Yeah, it's funny. Even just in those examples that you mentioned, you say the company and an image immediately pops into your head. What these people represent, who they are. So they obviously they do that very well.
Well, and then the next thing they do is they stand in the customer's shoes and see, how does this look and feel and sound from their point of view? And honestly, I think this is one of the top mistakes companies make, because they know what they're doing and they're delivering and they're looking at it from their side of the phone or the computer or the counter. But how often do you go around and say, what does this look like, sound like, and feel like from the other end of my business? Mm-hmm. And, we always talk about what people need and they want, which is critical. That's actually 2 distinctions. Sometimes what they need and want are a little bit different. So you need to go deep into that. But if you want to go into world class, I say there's 2 other areas to stand in the shoes of the customer in, and that is, what did they expect? Because if your customer is expecting something and you don't deliver it, even though you do a great job, they certainly won't recommend you and they'll be disappointed. If you exceed their expectation, even do one extra thing or one surprise thing, they will start to really cement that relationship with you. So you have to always keep looking at what are they expecting, and sometimes we think we know, but we need to ask them. So, and then the other one is, how do they feel? And a big part of business, although we think of business as a brain operation and it's all numbers and products, it's really people at the end of the day, and they are feeling a certain way. They need something. They want something. One of my favorite places to observe how the customer emotional state is in an airport. Yeah. There's everything in there from A to Z, where people are excited about a trip. People are nervous about flying. People are running late. People are worried about a business meeting. And really, you can't treat all of those people the same. You have to kind of check in. And I also work with a great credit union here on the west coast of Florida, and Achieve a Credit Union. And they are very, very clear that their members, their customers, are dealing with their money. So they might be nervous, they might be confused, they might be ecstatic, they might be scared, they've made a mistake. And they really work with their employees to say, you've got to stand in their shoes and think about how you would feel if this was happening to you, and go from there. So stand in your own shoes and know who you are, then stand in their shoes and figure out, how does this look, sound, and feel from the other side of my business? And I just don't think we do that enough. So obviously you can do surveys, focus groups. I've created a unique approach to mystery shopping that really helps people figure out where the leverage points are. Where did it go south? Where were they with you and then you lost them? But however you do it, you've got to put time and effort into checking in with them. If you don't, they can do your business in, because they will do anti-marketing.
Yeah.
By the way, the classic case of that is America Online. Remember AOL? They used to be the email address, and remember they would send you out the little disc, and you'd put it in the computer and get a free account.
Yeah, you got your 50 free hours or whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and everybody had AOL, and then little by little, if you remember, they got so many customers and more advertising, but they didn't have more bandwidth. So you'd go online, it would take forever, and then you'd get kicked off, and people were frustrated and they were complaining, but the company wasn't hearing that. So what did the customers do? They went out and told everyone and their uncle, whatever you do, don't get an AOL account. And they basically did the company in. So it was the greatest example of anti-marketing, where if you don't listen to your customer and what they're telling people about you, they can do you in or they can make you successful, but we have to take it very seriously.
Yeah. And so, Susie, I want to talk, before we let you go, you have kind of these 3 critical tips on where to start. Can we go over that together?
Sure. There's people want to change everything. You can't change everything. You don't need to. So I want to remind people that I call it ESP squared, that service is not just happy people smiling. People is very much a part of the equation, and the product is, but the environment and the systems really can be critical. So, take a look at how things feel, look, sound. And again, if you're on a phone or in an email, that's your business environment. That's very important too. What are you saying? How are you saying it? What are they hearing? So don't just think of it as a physical environment. But I want to mention systems in particular, because the systems is not only technical systems, but just even how you get things done, how you get back to people, how you move them around, and what information what kind of information systems that you have. I went to a medical office one day, and I walked in, and there were 2 windows, one to the left, one to the right, and a wall in between them. And I didn't know which window to go to, and the one had an arrow by it to the right, so I went to that window. And when I got up there, I said, I'm here to check in for my appointment, and they said, oh, you need to go to the other window. So it can be something as simple as that, where people don't know where to go, how to find you, how to reach you, how to get in. And if the system is frustrating, you could lose them right there. So, and the other one I want to mention is information systems, because nowadays customers have access to so much information, so it really stands out if you don't know your business or can't answer questions. And just a quick story, my first day on the job at Disney, they told us you had to never say, I don't know the answer. And if you didn't know it, you asked your coworker or your supervisor. And if you didn't know, if nobody knew it, they had a special number that you would call. Back then, we didn't all have computers, but they had a special room with computers and brochures, and they could answer any Disney question worldwide. And honest to goodness, on my first day of the job at the ticket gate, someone said to me, you know how Donald Duck has those 3 nephews, Huey, Dewey, and Louie?
Right.
Well, Daisy Duck seems to have 3 nieces, and I always wondered what their names are. And I really wanted to say, get a life, really, that's what you're thinking about. But I followed the process and the information system we had put in place, and we found out that her nieces' names were April, May, and June.
Wow, I had no idea.
That's on a lot of trivia. contest. So if you win something, let me know.
Yep.
But when you can have your employees know how to get information and you can have your customers know how to reach you and get in and out, that's very important. So everything speaks: the environment, the systems, the people, and the product. So that's number one. Number two, I always say start with your 3-1-3, and this is where I work with clients. You never get a second chance to make a first impression, right? So the Disney Imagineers would say, well, why just one first impression? They would intentionally design 3 first impressions into every time you turned a corner. When you walked, into a restaurant, into a shop, what are the first 3 things that catch your eye or that you hear or that somebody says? And they can make a big difference. And, if you've been to Disney World, you come across the ferry boat sometime to the entrance, and that's very intentionally designed. You could see the castle in the distance, and people are all excited, and they're already so happy, and they're not even in yet. Mm-hmm. And then they walk in, and who do they see? Hopefully, one of the characters, and get your picture taken. So already the family's ecstatic. You've got your Mickey picture, hopefully. Then you move up Main Street, and there's that castle. You got your picture there. And I know when we went with my family, the Dapper Dan Barbershop Quartet was standing there singing, and they pulled my dad over and let him direct them. Well, I don't know. They must have had a perfect instinct because he loved that. That was the highlight of his day. My mom and sister and I all had tears in our eyes. And we take a picture in front of the castle, and I said, we haven't done anything yet, and guess what we're all thinking and feeling?
Yeah, I mean, you guys were already on cloud 9.
Yes, and exactly. And it's the same thing on the way out, and I will tell you, most people forget the way out. On the way in, they might greet you and come and be nice to you because they want your money, they want to give you the sale, and then after they complete the sale, you're walking out, you can't find anyone if you need anything, they might not follow up with you, so I think it's doubly important on the way out, but 3 first impressions, 3 last impressions, and then find one thing in the middle, one spot in the customer experience that if you change something, it would make a huge difference. And I worked with a cancer center in New York, and they had 11-story elevators, 2 of them, and as we watched the customer path, and of course it's a very different type of business, people don't want to be there, and it's intense, and so I noticed in the elevator, which elevators are always not a nice environment because people standing there trying to not look at each other and it's awkward. Well,
right, it's just a means to you're trying to get someplace. It's not necessarily like an enjoyable part of anyone's day.
Yeah, and you're too close together. You're in each other's space. So can you imagine if there's people coming in and out for treatment or family members, and they told me, well, we can't say have a nice day because what if they just got bad news or they're not feeling well? So what we did was we trained them. We made a standard called Worldclass Transport, and we made a standard where you acted like the old-time elevator operator, where you would hold the door, ask them what floor they were going to, direct them, Teresa's over to the right, she'll help you, or yes, here's where you get your car, or hey, we have a seat in the back here for you to sit down on the bench if you're tired. And then they could look at the patients and the family members, the visitors, and speak to them and help them and create a different energy in that elevator. Mm-hmm. And they swear that was the number one thing that shifted their ratings into another arena because it helped all of them feel less uncomfortable. So find your 3 first impressions, your 3 last, and at least one leverage point in the middle so you don't have to re-engineer everything. But you can really change scores and change recommendations if you focus on that.
Your 3-1-3.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to always remind people is I say, remember, there's always someone new, whether it's a new employee, a new customer, a new potential customer, a new neighbor who's beside you in your office. They don't know who you are. They don't know what you do. And I think we make a lot of assumptions once we're doing something day to day. So, just remember that there's always someone new. Keep putting your shoes on of the person who has no idea what you do, and maybe listen to that phone call from that perspective, or go look at your website from that perspective. So that really helps people go, wow. And that's why I like the mystery shopping, because you get people who don't have any idea what you're doing, and all of a sudden you think, I never ever knew that they would see this that way.
Yeah. I'm looking at some of the notes here. I know that you have at least one bonus tip. And it feels like there's a story there. So I'd like to squeeze this in if we can. I know we have time for it.
Okay. Well, and it's I'm really putting you in the world of magic today, using a lot of my Disney background. There's a lot of great examples, but they tend to have some really, really fun ones and powerful ones. And, you want to recover if something goes wrong, right? And the best Disney story was when they trained the ferry boat drivers who were going over to the Magic Kingdom. There's another one coming back to the parking area to get the next guest. So they pass each other at some point. And then when they train them, they tell them, whatever you do, don't drive into the wake of the passing boat, especially if you're going towards the park, because everybody stands in the front of the boat to get that picture, right?
Right.
So you can picture it, the boat's already going through the water low in the front, and if they go into the wake, there'll be a problem. Well, it happened, and the wave washed up. It was January, and those of us who are Floridians know it's cold in January. Cold water went up to people's knees, went flowing back down, and took with it cameras, backpacks, brochures, shoes, sweaters, baby toys, all kind of things. And then they have a boat full of people who are, panicking and lost things and cold. And the person was new and she didn't know what to do. But Disney had a system again where if you don't know what to do and it's something big, you called this line called control. And they were staffed by security and guest relations, and they would figure it out for you. But by the time that boat got to the dock, the guest relations manager and some of his key people were there. They met them. They had the Disney Story, which was a movie theater that didn't open until 10, so they opened them in the back way, had them all sit down. Food and beverage showed up with coffee, hot chocolate, snacks. The people from risk management and insurance showed up. What did you lose? How much did it cost? Do you want us to replace it? Do you want to buy a new one? We have our own wardrobe downstairs. We can give you something else to wear while we, launder your clothes. They dispatched divers down into the lake to get the articles that went down in there. Then, of course, guess who else showed up? One of the bands from Main Street and the characters. So here you're having this incredibly, I'm mad, I'm upset, I'm frustrated, I lost my camera or whatever. And the next minute, they just simply stepped in and handled that. And not only handled it, but in a VIP fashion where they went home and instead of telling people Disney is horrible, I lost my camera and, my purse and they didn't care, they went home and said, you will not believe what happened to me.
Yeah.
And they had a story to tell. So if you can look at the worst things that happen in your business or the mishaps and say, not only can we turn it around and fix it, but what can we do to make them go, wow, they really cared and they went above and beyond. That's a game breaker. That's like that's going to set you into another arena because most people either don't do anything or they just go, oh, okay, here, we'll give your money back. And that's a moment that matters a lot in this whole business of getting the customer to do the marketing for you.
Susie, you have incredible stories. You're a prolific speaker. It has been an absolute delight having you on the show, and I'm looking forward to following up with you and finding out more. If anyone in our audience is interested as well in connecting with you, finding out more about this most powerful form of marketing that we've been talking about, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
Well, the best way would probably to call me right away. It would be 407-310-6386. And then, since I call my company Design the Customer Conversation, you could reach me at Susie at Design the Customer Conversation. Also on LinkedIn, you can find me, if you can remember the last name, Pecuchs is spelled Pecuch. So you can find me there, and love to help you. And it really does make a difference. My clients see the results, and when you invest in the right things, it makes it easier to do your business. So that's what we all want.
Yep, fantastic. Susie, again, thank you so much for taking a little time to join us on the show. It was definitely a pleasure having you.
Thanks, Jonathan.
To ensure that you never miss an episode of the B2B Growth Show, subscribe to the show on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. This guarantees that every episode will get delivered directly to your device.
If you or someone you know would be an incredible guest for the B2B Growth Show, email me at jonathan@sweetfishmedia.com. Let us know. We love connecting with B2B executives, and we love sharing their wisdom and perspective with our audience.
Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.